So why do modern movie makers choose to use black and white? That's what we're going to look at in today's video, coming up next. As everybody knows, films these days are made in color, but every now and then a black and white movie comes along. One of the more popular movies from the last couple of years to use black and white is The Lighthouse. This brings up the question of why movie makers even bother to try using black and white. Why would a modern movie maker who has access to all kinds of ways to tint the screen, to use lighting and colors, why would they ever choose to use black and white? It's exactly what my video is going to investigate, and I'm going to make a few suggestions to those of you who are creators who are interested in making movies or videos yourself. Let's start with the bare fact that all movies up until the late 1930s were made in black and white, and there were still a lot of movies being made in black and white up through the 1960s. So in the history of film, you have a huge bulk of movies that are in black and white, and a huge bulk of very influential movies. As well, another bare fact, black and white really isn't black and white. It's basically a lot of different combinations of shades of gray. When color came along, it was something to be advertised. Technicolor, VistaVision, you have movie companies showcasing their ability to make wonderful, sparkling color movies that will dazzle you. The most famous historical example of all is, of course, The Wizard of Oz, in which the fantasy world of Oz is depicted in color. This was a signal that movies were going to change forever, and they were going to take on the qualities of the great art of the world, particularly painting, but also architecture. Now, in the last 40 or 50 years, a few movie makers have chosen to create movies in black and white, and those have been odd choices, because, of course, the majority of films, 99.9%, are made in color. So in a way, every movie that's choosing to be in black and white, such as The Lighthouse, is making a choice against the norm. The question is, why do they make this choice? And of course, a lot of actually very good movies or beloved movies are made in black and white. Those include Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull, Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List, one of my personal favorites, Tim Burton's Ed Wood, a movie that won the Oscar, The Artist, and I bet you can think of a few more. The list goes on.
Of course they're my teeth. Don't be a moron.
Let me show you an example. The 2013 movie Nebraska was made in black and white, and the filmmaker is a great one, Alexander Payne. I like to ask my students why this movie is in black and white, and ordinarily the first answers are these, that the movie is in black and white because the director wanted to show the state of Nebraska as boring. In the minds of the students who say this, black and white equals boring, and I think that's because they believe older movies, which they associate with black and white, are not very interesting to them. It means something older, maybe that means it's primitive, maybe that means it's not entertaining or not watchable. Now, I doubt this is actually an answer to the question of why Nebraska or any other movie is black and white. What filmmaker wants to make a boring film? Students also give me another answer to the question why Nebraska is in black and white. They also say that the movie wants to depict a simple life, a simple place, and to them, thus, black and white means simple. Now, here we're starting to make some sense because in their minds, color is complex. You can have thousands or millions of colors in a colorized movie, whereas black and white basically signals that there are just two colors. We said that's not true because there are lots of grays in a black and white movie, but of course, black and white literally as an idiom in the English language means simple. If something is simple, it's black and white, it's cut and dry. And I think for the movie Nebraska, that actually is a possible answer. The town and the people depicted in the movie, or at least on the surface, are simple. Why else do movie makers use black and white though? And here when I ask you this, I'm also asking you what I ask my students. What are the common associations with black and white coloring in photography or in film? And I think there are a bunch of these. One is that black and white has a classic look to it. As we said, a bulk of movies in movie history are black and white, and that also signals something older, something timeless, something classic. Another answer that black and white is stark. Stark to me means a good kind of bare, and emphasizes certain things that wouldn't be emphasized in a color picture. In a color picture, you notice objects that are bright. Well, a black and white movie sort of takes the brightness away from any object that is naturally bright through its color. And so then the whole world world looks different in a black and white movie. A movie like Schindler's List, I think, is using black and white for this reason. The movie is mournful, it's austere, and I think the starkness of its black and white look gives it a haunting quality. That may be as well why The Lighthouse is also in black and white.
Pull the string! Pull the string!
The title of this can
hell
only be
is this?
labeled
Is this an actual
Behind
movie?
Locked
I can't
Doors.
be.
Another answer to the black and white question is that movies choose to be in black and white because they want to allude to the bulk of movie history. I think Tim Burton's Ed Wood is a great example of this. It's a movie about a director from the 1950s making schlock horror movies. There's a lot of great horror movies from the 19-teens onward that are in black and white. Of course, Ed Wood's movies are in black and white. And people of the age of Tim Burton, maybe even Gen X people, remember black and white movies on television and in the movie theater. And so Ed Wood as a black and white movie is an homage to the horror movies, the older horror movies it's quoting. Now there are some cases where black and white is used not for a whole movie but for a sequence in movies. You get this say in the Russian director Andrei Tarkovsky's movies, who loves to use color scenes, sepia tone scenes, and black and white. Black and white can mean that you're seeing a dream world or a hallucination. Because black and white might signal to viewers that things aren't as clear as they ought to be, the black and white can mean we're in sort of a hallucinatory landscape or geography. Actually, I think that's one of the reasons why Darren Aronofsky colored his great science fiction movie Pi in black and white. Of course, that movie was made on a shoestring budget. Nevertheless, it has that look both of the starkness of black and white, and it has the hallucinatory dreaming that the main character undergoes in that movie. So now we have answers to the question I posed at the beginning of this. Why would a modern movie maker ever choose to use black and white in a movie? There are tons of great reasons, and you have to think about what your audience associates with black and white. It might be that it's a classic look. It's indicating some kind of timelessness. It's referring to movie history. It's stark or austere, or it's a dream. No matter what, as moviegoers change over time, we'll see the associations with black and white change over time. I think smart, clever artists are going to be using black and white because it's such a great scheme, a great looking color scheme. They're going to be using it for a long time. After all, the first two primal colors we're told are white and black.